And it's our pleasure to be joined by Dr. Earnie Minton, who is the Dean of the College of Agriculture, as well as the Director of K-State Research and Extension. Dr. Minton, always great to catch up with you.
Yes, Ken. So happy to be with you as well. I think things are looking up for the state with the rain that we've been getting, so really pleased about that.
You, as we're talking, just a little bit away from graduation, a bunch of new students out now in the workforce are going on to graduate school. And so really that's what we wanted to talk about. One of your passions has been beating the drum and really focusing on something that probably hasn't been focused on as hard, and that is investment in the College of Agriculture, but especially, at least for this segment, talking about research and how that is so important. And of course, I'm a huge advocate as well, being K-State as the first land grant.
Ken, that's absolutely right. If you look at, and of course, as you point out, our land grant status, that compels us to do things that other universities don't do. Of course, they teach students at all the Regent schools and conduct research, particularly at the R1s at KU and Wichita State as well. And we do also, but the other thing we do, of course, that is unique to Kansas State University, which is really a continuation of our research effort, is extension. So, we're committed to food, agriculture, natural resources, and of course, by that I mean water and other inputs that are important to support the economy of the state. And so that's our mission. And so when we are fortunate enough to have public funds dedicated to Kansas State University towards the College of Agriculture and K-State Research and Extension, those further the state's largest economic driver. And we've got good solid data from our state, and this is consistent with what economists have been saying nationwide, that a dollar invested in research, public dollars in research, turns into double digits to one. In our case, it's $17 of economic value for every dollar we spend in research. So it's so terribly important, and it has to be continually nurtured.
I think that's it. As folks maybe go to Manhattan that don't live in that area, come in for a football game or a basketball game, they see some of that work being done, north of the stadium. But when you really look at it, Dr. Minton, that's been several years ago.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. The campus infrastructure. I mean, there's one thing about having the pride and speaking about being the nation's first functional land grant university after the passage of the Morrill Act, but that means you have a lot of old buildings too, which is good from if those buildings are kept up with. But just like things at home, they have to be invested in periodically to keep them modern. And so we find ourselves in a position at K-State to have quite a backlog, actually, of buildings that are in need of modernization. There was a good bit of a good study that was done 5 years ago and has been up.
And our guest this week is Dr. Earnie Minton, who is the Dean of the College of Agriculture, as well as the Director of K-State Research and Extension. And we're talking about making investments into infrastructure and research at these research institutions. And Dr. Minton, you touched right before break of it's more than just K-State. It's really all the land grants and all those that are doing research. How can we turn that tide?
Well, to credit our former Senator Pat Roberts, who was chair for a number of years of the Senate Ag Committee, he and others made sure there was language in the 2018 Farm Bill that authorized a program to renew set up a grants program through USDA to potentially renew agriculture, food and agriculture infrastructure across the U.S. And that was an acknowledgement at that level at the Congress that this was a nationwide problem. And quite frankly, it doesn't take too much of a stretch of the imagination to understand why it can be a national food security issue. And so the point is, the authorizing language is there for us to advocate for and hope that we will be heard, that in addition to the needed repairs and investment in airports and interstate highways and bridges and those kinds of things, which are definitely needed, we also need to consider the infrastructure, which helps fuel the nation's economy and helps feed us and other countries in the world through export as well.
You've been kind of trying to talk to whoever will listen through interviews like this, articles, and so on. And you bring up an interesting point. While we have a decent relationship with China, buying a lot of ag products, China has made a big investment in their research and some of those education opportunities as they, are now competing and maybe ahead of the U.S. in some areas.
That's absolutely right. It's known that the Chinese are very much known for looking at the long game and playing that long game, and so they're knowing that a population of their size has to have food security for stability going forward, and so they've made those investments. And while at the same time we've seen the public investment in food and ag research diminish over the last many years, so we really do need to turn that around and be cognizant of that, because it not only funds the genetics of seeds, the genetics of livestock, production technologies, and those kinds of things that are needed. But as you and I spoke about before break, it's also a key part of where you do that work and how competent those facilities are to accomplish that modern work. So it takes investment. It's like anything else that we're involved with in our daily lives.
Well, before we wrap this up, I would think one of the best things to do, those that are watching us, is you get a chance to see your member of Congress, to encourage them to support efforts to bring some research dollars and infrastructure dollars to K-State, but really those that are doing this so important research.
That's absolutely correct. We need a chorus of voices, influential voices, to really make that case, because it's a solid one. It feels so much easier when you're on the side with truth and data to back it up. And it sure enough is one of those cases where if you invest, there will be